Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is our third episode of our Fashion Friday series, and today we're going to talk about all the challenges that the fashion industry is facing in this globalized age that we live in. If that's a topic you're interested in, stay tuned. Okay, so as we know, fashion has become a major industry in society, and it's one of the things that impacts us as people in society. And some of these impacts are positive and some of these impacts are negative. So I wanted to touch on 10 issues that affect the fashion industry. This is ethical issues that affect people. Now we've got many more issues, environmental and so on and so forth, but for today I just wanted to touch on 10 ethical issues that affect people in the fashion industry. Well, issue number one is the most obvious, and this is consumerism. The business models for most of the fashion companies have changed from slow, sustainable fashion to giving fast fashion. So we consumers are consuming at a faster rate than we ever have before, and the fashion companies are struggling to keep up with that demand, to keep up with the consumption, and as a result, they're cutting corners and they're doing a lot of things that are actually harming the environment. Things that are not really beneficial to us, the consumers. And at some point you have to wonder, who is driving the industry? Is it the consumers' demand, or is it what the fashion industry is offering the consumers? That is up for debate, and people feel differently about it. But the bottom line is that consumers are buying a lot more garments than they ever did in the past. We're now treating garments as disposable items. We use them for about 7 wears, and then we get rid of them and we go back to the shops and we buy more outfits. So the consumption rate is a lot higher than is healthy, which in turn is leading to quite a bit of waste. The second issue is one of fair trade. Companies are outsourcing their production to developing countries where labor is still cheap, and as a result they're not really taking responsibility for the working conditions of these garment workers. And that's an issue that has been discussed widely in the fashion industry, with more finger pointing than really looking to resolve the issue. We've had a few terrible accidents that have cost lives. We're not supporting local sustainability. We're not supporting local mills in most of the countries that we're producing our garments in. It's just a quick come in, get it done, get out. But then again, we live in a global society where whatever happens in one end of it does end up affecting the other end of it, and we have to look out for each other. So that's one of the things that sustainable fashion is looking to change. Another issue is the issue of child labor, still happening in these developing countries where most of our garments are being made. These young children, instead of being given an education, they're actually pulled out of school at a very young age to go and start making clothes to be able to make money and help support their families. And that is not right in and of itself, and it's also another of the issues that plague the fashion industry and something that needs to change. In that same light, even here in countries like the USA where I live and other countries, we do have a gross underpayment for people working within the fashion industry. There seems to be a trend where people are expected to work for free, where we have unpaid internships. We've got assistants that are grossly underpaid and we don't pay them a fair wage, while the companies go on to make lots of money without looking out for the good of those that are working for them. So I think a lawsuit was filed a couple of years ago where a group of interns got together and sued the company that was not paying them, when it's just the expectation that you'll give your labor for free. So we've got fashion headquarters all over the world where they're not paying fair wages to their assistants and they're demanding free internships, and that is really giving fashion a bad name. Because there's such high competition within the industry and everybody wants to work for some of these major companies, they feel that they can then take advantage of people, but that is not the right thing to do. So that's another of the issues that the fashion industry is trying to look into to try and change. The fifth one is cultural appropriation, or misappropriation as you have it. We've got designers that actually appropriate a culture that is not theirs, and they use it to make money for themselves without that money really benefiting the culture that they appropriated or misappropriated for that matter. And that's not fair, so much that the United Nations is actually looking to pass a law to actually outlaw this practice, especially when the culture in question is actually still subjected to some of this especially when such a culture is still suffering from the same history of oppression, discrimination, exploitation. Then it's really not fair at all. A sixth issue is actually promoting a poor body image. Fashion has been known to choose very skinny models to display their outfits, so skinny to the extent that they actually look emaciated, which is just not a good image, because then it makes other people think that that is the acceptable standard of beauty, when really it isn't. People come with, body sizes, body shapes, and fashion doesn't really promote that. They are trying lately to use plus size models, but even that plus size is questionable. Fashion seems to be fixated on using a particular body type, which does not promote an image of body positivity to the majority of mainstream people. A seventh issue is the issue of diversity. We now know of companies that actually, in this day and age, it's really hard to just find a room full of people of just one race or one color or one inclination, because the world is full of people of all types, all skin tones, hues and colors, and fashion is yet to catch up completely in that light. They're working to become more diverse in terms of race, in terms of using models with disability, models of other religions. We finally have models in hijab, which is an improvement in terms of how it used to be before, where there was just one standard of beauty promoted without really being representative of everyone out there. An eighth issue is the one of gender equality. Fashion has been grappling with this, and they're now at least finally including transgender models to appear in some of their campaigns. There's this push against disempowerment of people that are not like us, and now we're trying to build a world that is much more inclusive of everybody in it. And the ninth issue that fashion is grappling with is that of ageism. Fashion generally does not cater to the woman over 45. Like, it's almost as if from 45 upwards you cease to exist. Nobody creates fashion for you anymore. All fashion is made for the 20-something-year-old. In fact, there's this saying within the fashion industry that you have to create for the 24-year-old woman so the 45-year-old woman can buy it. Now, if you speak to the 45-year-old woman, she's going to say that's not true. If you create fashion for me, I'll wear it. This is all you've got in the shops, so this is all I have to wear. And same goes for who they pick to model their fashion. Once you're 24 and above, you're discarded as being too old to walk the runway. That is also changing, because we're now trying to feature older women. I think the oldest is what was her name? I think she was 89. Let's see if I can find her. It's so incredible when we use models like Carmen, who is 86 years old, has been modeling since she was 15. It's highly unlikely that this is a skill you lose. So that is a good evolution in terms of fashion, like trying to embrace older people to walk the runway, but we should equally try and create fashion for the older woman. And the 10th issue, the final issue, is that one of elitism. In other words, class divides. Fashion has been known to be very hypocritical, because we make fashion for the high class and we sell it for thousands of dollars, and then by the same token we claim to champion the rights of the poor. Most people find this as being incongruent and kind of not very honest. And then at the same time, fashion in that sense, it causes us to compare our socioeconomic status, which does not really lead to a happy society. So fashion has been plagued with claims of elitism and class, creating divides that are really unnecessary. And yet at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be happy. So these are some of the issues that the fashion industry has been grappling with, probably will continue to grapple with as time goes. There's specific issues we have to grapple with in 2018 and for years to come, but as an industry, we're not exempt from all the issues that have been affecting all other industries once globalization happened, technological advances. So there's a lot of catching up to do. We're dealing with a much more informed consumer, we're dealing with a much more conscious consumer, and we're also dealing with a marketplace that is requiring a lot more transparency, and all the things, all the practices that have been going on in the past are no longer acceptable in this day and age. And there's a lot of improvements to be made. There's leaps and bounds that we have to cover in order to become a socially conscious industry that actually contributes positively to the marketplace and to the well-being of everybody at large. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in my next Fashion Friday video. Stay well. Okay.
Can I help in any way?
No. I'll get there. You just surf the web.
Just relax and think about it. Just speak in short, a couple sentences and then pause and then think. And then a couple sentences, pause and think.
Yeah.
Okay.